You're listening to Fox Radio 910 or 104.3. Welcome to Front Porch Tales, our bi-weekly program featuring Appalachian stories and mountain characters that still live and treasure the old ways. We feature a variety of guests willing to walk back in time with us and discuss the history and cherished legacy of our mountain heritage. We hope our shared stories will grab your imagination and hold special interest for our senior audience. This outreach to the Roanoke senior community is sponsored by Crowning Touch Senior Moving Services at 6704 Williamson Road in Roanoke. And my name is Linda Balentine, founder and CEO of Crowning Touch. And we are the only local moving company that focuses on seniors making a move, and the only moving company that can write you a check. And so how do we do that? Well, we can sell what our clients no longer want in either our consignment shop or our auction house. Then we split the proceeds 50-50, and that money can help offset the cost of a move. Check out our Browse and Bid auction. You can bid online or in-house. To register and see pictures of everything, go to crowningtouchusa.com. And of course, if you need a moving estimate, give Anna a call at 540-982-5800. So now let me introduce my guest for today. Chip Hill, a pastor, author, farmer, and a Highland County resident for over 55 years. Perhaps you've heard some of his stories before. We've had him back today because he's got so many great Highland tales to share. And right now, we want to kick off our conversation with a story of coon hunting. That's what we need to talk about. We need to talk about coon hunting because you are a coon hunter. And why do people coon hunt? And what is the season for coon hunting? Tell me all about it.
Well, coon hunting is a tradition that goes way back to the founding of this country, and the founding fathers, many of them were coon hunters, and the men that were all around them in that time period. George Washington was a coon hunter.
They used the pelts, didn't they? I mean, they used them. It was important.
They used the pelts and they ate the meat.
Okay.
And coon hunting has always been a very exciting sport for men that love hounds. And ladies, that there are a lot of ladies right today that have hounds. I'm friends with many of them.
Really?
Across the nation because of Facebook. There are groups of coon hunters have their Facebook pages and members of groups. Like one of them that I'm a member of is called the Black Dog Mafia. and it's for black and tan coon hound lovers, which I raise black and tan coon hounds.
Right.
Registered purebred black and tan coon hounds with some of the top breeding and top blood in them. And then there's another one called Black and Tan Coon Hounds Are the Greatest. And that will include members of the page who have them as pets but don't hunt them, and people that hunt them. So they're different groups. They have groups for blue ticks, red bones, red ticks, plots, you name it. And you can really find it for any breed of dog there is, not just coon hounds and bear hounds. So Facebook is loaded with different groups. All you got to do is type in the name of the dog you want to see, and there'll be a thing you can join, and you can get a lot of information about how to treat them when they get sick. And
so they're pets, and they have also other uses on the farm, don't they? They're great companions.
My coon hounds are yes, they're pets.
Watchdogs?
They let me know if somebody's coming.
I bet they do.
But they're not aggressive watchdogs like a Rottweiler would be, or a Doberman Pinscher or something like that. But my coon hounds are more of a family pet than most people's. There are guys who say you can't have a good coon hound or can't have a good bear dog if you make pets out of them. Well, I beg to differ. The more time you spend with your dog, the more he's going to obey you if you train him right. And my dogs... I just have two now, but they go with me everywhere. They're my running buddies.
Right.
When I'm working on the farm, when I'm cutting firewood, they're usually with me.
Yeah, that's
and
terrific.
they don't run off. They know to stay nearby. But when I take them coon hunting at night, they know why they're there.
Wow.
And my one is a champion. His name is My Boy, and I'd put him up against any coon dog in the country.
He's a beautiful dog. I've seen him.
But yeah. But it used to be that people hunted coons because they needed the meat, during the Depression. And even back in the old days, coon meat is good if it's cooked right.
Wow.
And so they would eat coon like they would eat deer or turkeys. So they had them for meat, but they also had them because they could sell the pelts or make coats and hats out of the pelts.
Right.
In more recent... in this last century, they would sell the pelts for a pretty good price, and then the pelts would go overseas let's say, Russia, France. The women used real fur coats, but now everything has gone to fake fur.
Yeah.
So there's not a demand for the pelts.
Well, those coon coats were real popular in the 20s, and
yeah,
Yeah,
they were. And fox pelts, beaver pelts, but now it's all fake. And so there's not a demand for the pelts anymore.
Right.
But there's nothing more pleasing to me than to be out sitting on a mountainside listening to your hounds chase a coon.
Now, do your other landowners mind? I mean, you're off of your property. You have to be a lot.
Yeah. Well, you try to let all your neighbors and all the people within a 20-mile radius of where you live, you try to make them all aware of the fact that you coon hunt and that your dogs may be making a racket up on the mountain behind their house, because you can't control where a coon's going to run, or a fox, or a bear. And so it's always a good thing to go to your neighbors and introduce yourself if you don't already know them, and even if you do, and let them know that you may hear my dogs running tonight.
Well, the culture out here is really tolerant for that because it's their heritage.
It's their heritage, but it's not the heritage of a lot of the newcomers who've moved in,
right.
And they don't want anybody on their property.
Right.
And they can get pretty nasty about it. And I understand they pay the taxes on it. They paid for it. But if you approach them in a neighborly, friendly fashion and simply ask them, most people are going to say, okay, don't kill it. And you can say, okay, I won't kill it. As a matter of fact, I hardly ever kill a coon.
You just like to tree them. The object, the joy for the dog is to get to tree them, and they change their bark when they tree something. That's how you know, right?
They go from a bawling voice, which is a longer, drawn-out sound, to a chop. When they're barking up at the coon, you can tell when they change. That coon's up the tree. I can tell by the change in the dog's bark.
Now, what kind of technology you use now, too? Because you use a little bit of technology today.
Nowadays you have GPS. You have your Garmin, and you can.
Do the dogs wear something
wear
that you can track them if you needed to, right?
Yep. And you can also call them in with it. You can hit the toner; it beeps.
Oh, and they know that signal.
Or you can shock them if you have to.
Yeah.
But my dogs are trained so well that I never have to do anything.
Well, the shocking isn't a shock anyway. It's just a quick little reminder.
Oh yeah, it scares them.
Yeah, that's all it is.
To make them.
It's an alert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but my dogs, they just answer my call if they can hear me.
Now, how do you get
it? Then I can tone them, and it goes beep beep beep, and then they'll come to me.
Now, will they leave a treed coon to come to you just because you're going beep beep beep? I can't imagine that frenzy that they get into.
My dogs will.
Really? So they get the joy of doing that, and then you call them back, and they come back.
Yeah.
That's
only if I can't get to them.
Okay, so you try and get to them, which sounds like a sort of a dangerous thing for me, for a man to be out there.
Especially a 73-year-old
73-year-old man and it's cold. I mean, you get out there when it's cold.
In the dead of winter, it is cold.
Oh, my gosh. So what if something happens to you and, cell phones don't work out here?
I know. Well, at least I'd die doing what I enjoy doing. I tell my
wife. And your dogs will stay with you.
I tell my wife where I'm going to be going and parking, and then if
you don't come home, they'll send out the troops. They'll get you.
Yeah, she'll call a couple of my buddies, and they'll come find me. But I don't
Dead
go as
and
much
happy.
as I used to. I don't go as much as I used to.
It's tricky out there, and especially at night when you can't see. I went coon hunting one time with the next door neighbor's kid that wanted to take me. And, and my job was to carry a lantern. He didn't have a flashlight or anything. We used kerosene lamps.
Sure.
To go out.
Old-timey way.
That was the way he did it.
I used to coon hunt with an old mountain man out here named Jimmy Hull. But we had lights, even back then. This was in the late 60s.
Yeah. I mean, there were flashlights he could have used, but this kid didn't want to use them. He just,
He wanted to do it the old-timey way.
He did. He wanted to do it the old-timey way, and he was comfortable. And I didn't know anything, but I'll tell you, I remember it.
Yeah.
It was a very special night out there.
Yeah.
Just trying to keep up with him.
Yeah. Now I have a grandson that's chasing me, pushing me to coon hunt. A lot of times when he'll come spend the night, he's 10 years old now, and that's
Nash.
He was with me on his first coon. He was about 5 years old.
Oh my gosh!
And
you didn't have to carry him; you made him walk, right?
Yeah. And he'll pester me. And I'm usually so tired because I work all day and I do things, and then I come in, and now the thought of going back out I don't go like I used to.
Well, it won't be too long before he can, head out on his own, but, A few years, that's pretty amazing. So you taught him. That's another thing. Let's talk about the gun culture. Everybody is so terrified. And I really came to appreciate why people have guns out here in the mountains. Can you say a few words about, a gun is...
A gun is a tool.
A gun is a tool, and, to even be responsible out here. They teach kids how to use guns because they need to know how to use guns out here.
I talked to a man the other day who said that he wasn't going to be able to come to a meeting we were having with the Historical Society because he had to take his son to a shooting class. Where there are groups out here spread throughout the mountains, the Appalachian Mountains, that have classes where they teach kids how to safely handle a gun.
Yeah.
And so, guns are a part of our culture. It's a cultural thing.
Yeah, and no one's shooting people out here.
No, nobody's shooting.
Nobody shoots people.
We don't have drive-by shooting.
Nobody's shooting people.
I mean, there are the rare instances.
Somebody gets drunk, some idiot somewhere, and but that's
No, it's safe out here, but we also realize our Second Amendment right, and that right was given to us not so that we could shoot a deer and feed our family. The primary reason, I mean, that's part of it, but the primary reason so we could protect ourselves against a tyrannical government
that's correct.
That may one day rise up and try to take over our freedoms.
I know.
I mean, that's what our founders were all about.
That is correct, and they think that that's one of the reasons why, if somebody I don't know how many millions of guns we have in this country and the people that are ready to use it, but people...
Boy, I hope it never comes to that.
I hope it never does either, and no one's really thinking that way, but it is a deterrent for anybody that wants somebody outside the United States, to, come and attack us. They'd have their hands full.
They would. I think...
Especially in Highland County.
Yeah, there's some old boys around here that
they wouldn't wait to see the whites of their eyes.
Well, the thing about mountain men in Highland, Bath, Botetourt, Allegheny, Roanoke County, and any county up and down the Appalachian Mountains, and it's probably this way in the swamplands of Louisiana and in the Great Plains of our United States. Most of the boys learned early how to shoot a gun, and when we grew up, when my generation and our father's generations grew up, there were a lot of groundhogs, and just about every boy had a 22 and learned how to shoot a 22 open sight 22, and they became great marksmen. And they always said that in the military, the best marksmen came from the country.
Isn't that something? Yeah.
They were boys who ended up, they were shooting.
They were comfortable with it.
Yes, they were
early on.
Yeah, it's just a part of our American culture.
Well, and I had never shot a gun before in my life, but I remember in the homestead that I had, I would slide open the kitchen window and take aim on groundhogs because I had horses, and a groundhog hole is a death to a horse, break a leg, and they were running around in that field. And I remember sitting there and picking them off because it was, there was a survival aspect to the whole thing. And
there are very few groundhogs around here now because of the coyotes.
Oh, for
goodness sake. You don't see
sake.
the groundhogs like you used to. I used to be able to take my rifle and go up into the place we call the Holcomb and spend all Saturday morning up there. And there would be series of groundhog holes on different ridges, and we learned how to shoot long distance. And you could go up and shoot 3 or 4 groundhogs in the course of a morning. But now you can go up to that same pasture and you don't see any groundhog holes, and you never see any groundhog. The coyote population has decimated the...
But tell me about the habits of coyotes. In other words, what do they do? We hear them. They come to my house in Roanoke, and I am right there by the airport. There just happens to be some, wild creek and woods and stuff around there, but they roam and they cry at night in the wintertime. We can hear them. The rest of the time, I don't hear them. What is the habit, and how seasonal are they, and when is their mating season, and when do they make the racket and the noise? It seems like they're doing it to call each other. They're in packs, right?
Yeah. They're in small packs, some larger packs. They're breeding in the late winter and having their pups in the spring, and then they're training them during the early months of summer, and sometimes having another litter by fall, and they proliferate. They're quite abundant anymore.
Is there an open season? Are you allowed to shoot them?
Yes.
I mean, if they're in your sheep, are you allowed to shoot them? What?
Yeah. Generally, there's an open season out in the country. Yeah. But you can't stay ahead of them. They're here to stay. I can remember when there were no coyotes. We didn't have any problem with coyotes killing sheep or chickens or anything, but they've decimated the sheep farmer, except for a few that are able to hold on, but they have guard dogs.
Yeah, and that's why you need your dogs.
Yeah, that's right. And so I don't have any sheep, so I don't have to worry about it. And they won't mess with cattle. Now, they will go in occasionally and they kill a brand new calf.
Yeah, a brand new calf that's brand new the ground, born and everything.
Yeah. But my dogs keep them at bay, except in the middle of the night, they'll come in close.
Because your dogs are inside, aren't they?
Yeah. I had some coyotes jump a deer,
really?
A doe, one night, no more than 40 yards from my house is my cattle pens. And they ran her, I guess she panicked and ran this way, but she ran down a chute.
Oh, no.
And got down to the head cat chute for my cattle.
Uh-oh.
And she tried to jump through it. Her hips got caught.
Oh, no.
And there she was. And the next morning, it was a killing field.
Oh,
they had
God.
just eaten her up.
Oh, my
completely.
God.
It was just terrible. I felt bad that my head gate for the cattle had not been open totally wide. It was shut, and she tried to jump through that one place and got caught. And the coyotes just
they ate well that
they're
night.
vicious. They're vicious. I mean, they're killing machines, just like wolves or any other predator.
So if there isn't any way to get rid of them, I guess, and you don't really want to poison them because you could be poisoning other things, correct? Well,
there's certain ways you poison them, but it's usually the state trappers that know how to do that.
Right.
Yeah, and they catch them in snares, and they catch them in steel traps, but mostly snares. And that's
are there state trappers? When you say a state trapper,
they're state trappers. I don't know how many there are or anything. There used to be one here in Monterey, but he no longer does it. But I don't have a problem with coyotes as long as they're not overabundant.
Right.
Because they do kind of keep the deer herd under control. It hurts when you go out in the morning and you see a fawn that's half eaten.
Right.
Sure. Or something, and because heck, that fawn might have become an 8-point buck.
Right. Could have provided some real food.
Yeah. But they got to eat too. It's just that they're not native to these mountains. There were wolves here. There were wolves here, but the coyotes they weren't. But they've migrated in here, and a lot of people believe that the Game Commission released some of them too. So there's always a debate about that.
It is sad though, because I know that it is very hard to make a living raising animals out here in Highland County. This is rough country out here. Mm-hmm. My farm was half of it was rock. Yeah. When I went to
you lived up in a big mountain.
I did.
Yeah.
And it was a subsistence farm, mm-hmm. and all the farms up there were, and they raised just enough that they had for themselves, and then they did hunt, mm-hmm. and that filled in the menu mm-hmm. for them. But I can imagine how hard it is for some farmer who's trying to get money to pay his taxes, mm-hmm. and then a coyote comes on in and does that. So there might be people that hate to hear about open season on coyotes, but
when the coyotes first came into Highland County in the very early 80s, it was nothing for a farmer to go out on a morning and find 3 or 4 dead fat lambs that were maybe 80 pounds, 90 pounds ready for market.
Oh my.
And then they'd go out the next night and there'd be another 5 or 10 fat lambs dead, and they would take their tongue, or they would slit them in the belly and they'd take their liver and leave the rest of it there.
Oh my gosh.
Or to go out and find fawns, and what they do to a fawn is while the thing is still alive, they eat its hams. I've found fawns that have been just freshly killed, and there's hardly any meat left on their hams.
Oh, that's sad.
And so they're a very vicious predator. Thankfully, out here they don't attack us. I do know a couple of guys who've had their little dogs killed, mm-hmm. and cats killed by them, but mm-hmm. I dare any coyote to take on my big hound, my boy.
I don't think he would.
but a pack of them could get him.
Yes, you're right.
Because they'll hamstring them. And once they hamstring them and they drop, then they're on them.
Oh,
So it's you hate to think about it, but they weren't here before. The only thing that would kill a sheep or a fawn back in those days were bears, and we have more bears now actually than we did back when I moved here. Mm-hmm. But now the mange has hit the bear population, and the mange has cut the bear population down tremendously.
It kills them?
Yes, it does.
It strips them of their hide, their fur? What happens to them? What does mange do?
Mange just, they itch
lose their
so
coat.
bad.
Oh.
Yeah, they rub until they have no more hair on their parts. Great patches of hide that is revealed, and they can't eat because they're so busy scratching.
Oh dear!
They can't hunt like they need to,
Oh, my
and eventually, many of them get so weak they get sick and they die. And a friend of mine in Bath County posted a picture of a sow and 2 cubs in her backyard, and she was tickled about the bear and getting the picture of them on film and putting it on Facebook. And I said, That's beautiful, but you see that mange?
Oh, yeah.
And she was a city gal. She didn't notice that.
Right.
But I sure did. And some of them are almost completely naked of hair.
Oh my!
And they don't last long.
Oh my!
I wish they could stop it. Mange is a terrible scourge on the bear population in Virginia.
And that's
West Virginia.
some little mite that gets in there. Is it the same type of mange that a dog would get?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Let's talk about gardens.
Okay.
This has been a really dry time out here in Highland County, right? It was very, very brown when I drove through. Yeah. I mean, the hayfields are green because they were just cut. And then you had some rain recently.
We've got enough rain to green up the pastures a little bit.
Yes, that's right. But the people still take their gardens very, very seriously.
Yeah,
I mean, they're still canning and they're still, because it is, I need to say, that if you want to go to a chain grocery store, it's an hour and a half one way. Mm-hmm. And that is, for a CVS or a movie or anything, it's an hour and a half. There is a place down in Franklin. Is the IGA still down there in Franklin, West Virginia? You have to go into another state.
Right. It's not called IGA anymore, but everybody who remembers it call it IGA.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, it's been IGA in our mind forever.
Mm-hmm. Independent Grocers Association.
That's what it was. Now it's privately owned.
Right.
Yeah.
But at least there is, there's an outlet down there. Yeah. But basically, that's why people are still so very self-sufficient. I remember when I lived here that I had to create a list. Everybody took lists very seriously when we lived here because if you forgot something on your list, you weren't going back for 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Because it was expensive. The gas was expensive. The time, it was the time. Mm-hmm. It was hard to take a day and go on over there. And then you would try to get everything done that you needed to get done. Right. You would go to the hardware store and you would go food shopping and, you would go to Kmart for clothes and you would go,
And back when you lived here, and back when I first moved here, you moved here in about 73?
Yeah, 72, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I came here in 68.
Uh-huh.
There were still a lot of old ladies around that taught the younger women how to can and how to do all sorts of stuff.
They taught me.
Yeah.
I mean, I learned how to do it.
But then everything became more convenient, and we moved. The government moved us to processed food, which I think is killing us.
It is. It is.
And people don't. They want to pour out of a box or out of a can and don't want to take the time to can stuff anymore or freeze stuff.
Chip, I remember I had 150 quarts of green beans under my stairs. Mm-hmm. I had big, giant Hubbard squashes that we raised and ate all winter long under my bed. Mm-hmm. I would have 150 quarts of tomatoes. I mean, we took it very seriously. And then a lot of the things you could leave, mulch up with a lot of hay and go out and still pick carrots.
Yep.
And pull beets out of the ground. Yep. I got Brussels sprouts until Christmas because you could, there were just ways that you could do that.
Yeah, you learned to do it the old way.
I learned to do it because they taught me. Yeah. And then I actually learned how to forage for wild food. Mm-hmm. And I used to ride my horse with great big saddlebags on, and I would go and collect things like black snake root and ginseng and take them into D.C. and trade them for other food that I could use all winter long, but I would take them into the health food stores in D.C.
Yep. Yeah, yeah, and there's still some people that do that from all over the mountains.
Because there's still great stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I used to gather pennyroyal, which would keep mosquitoes away from anything. I used to put it in my horse's bridle, and the mosquitoes and flies wouldn't bother us at all. And there's just so much richness out here
There really
that
is.
way in
And-
terms of natural herbs.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know what they are anymore, but they have no excuse because there are many books.
Oh yeah,
And
there are.
many YouTube videos about
That's
all of that.
correct.
You can learn. It's just like most people pull up lamb's quarter and throw it away.
I loved it. I used it. I ate it like spinach. I put
Yeah.
it in salads and cooked it up.
Yeah,
It
and
was
it's-
delicious.
And it's filled with antioxidants.
So good. I
so
bet it's
many
full of
other
your farm.
things.
My farm was crawling with it. It was
Oh
everywhere.
yeah. It's a invasive weed in our garden.
I love it.
But we don't do anything with it, but we know how to.
Yes.
I mean, we know how to do stuff with cattails.
Well, I'm going
if
to
we
come
had
visit
to.
you, and I'll pick some of it and take it home if you aren't using
Okay.
it. If you're probably mowing it and weeding it out.
Well, Darlene and I we don't do like we used to. We've gotten older, and she's not physically able to do what she used. She used to be a gardening
She was a champion.
fanatic.
She was a champion.
But she can't do it. But she was sitting in there the last few days peeling apples, cutting apples,
Bless her
freezing
heart.
apples.
Wow.
Doing a lot of squash. We've got beans that we haven't started picking yet. I don't do potatoes anymore because I can go right over
I
into
know.
Pocahontas County, West Virginia, and buy a couple of bushels of potatoes. It's cheap.
That's right.
We just bought a couple of big bags of nice tomatoes from a local girl here, a teenage girl that does it. And because our tomatoes didn't do too well because of the drought.
Right.
And we didn't have the extra water to keep the garden going like we wish.
You have a good well?
No, we have 3 springs that
okay.
feed our reservoir, and then it's gravity fed down into the house. So I don't have to deal with a pump or anything. But we just didn't have enough water to use because we are so dry. We didn't get any snow to speak of in
That's
the winter.
right. We didn't.
No snow melt, and our water tables are way, way, way down.
Well, I hope this fall brings some relief. You probably won't have much of it now. When I was up in the mountain and living on my farm without any water, we finally put a gravity pipe from the spring. It was so rocky, we could only get 6 inches down, and then we just covered it with sawdust.
Yeah.
And then let it run into my kitchen, and it ran 24/7.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't let it stop because then it would freeze.
Then it would freeze, yeah.
So we just let it run, and it was a nice sound. You just felt like the creek was. You built your house over a creek, and then we had a nice exit for it, and ran along next to the garden, down through the pasture, and and so
it's a wonderful way that you learn to compensate and do things here.
that's correct.
Yeah.
And that was the best water ever.
Yeah, good spring water.
Really good spring water.
Probably a deep spring, which is the best. It comes from deep down in the earth.
It never dried
It's pure,
up. And it was at the
cold.
it was at the base of Jack Mountain, so
Yeah.
it had a lot
Oh yeah,
to feed it.
yeah. I love it. I wouldn't want to go to any other source than a spring.
No, and until then, I used to take 2 5-gallon buckets and take them on up there. But I had 80 animals, so they had some of the stream to go to.
Yeah.
But then some of them, like the chickens and the sheep and the other animals, goats that I kept penned up, you still had to water them.
Yeah.
So I had to carry their water.
Yeah, a lot of people right now are hauling water. Mm-hmm. They're having to haul water to their cattle or to their homes.
Well, it's okay. It's okay when you're young, but when you get older,
It's always good to have a neighbor that has a strong spring and who will share their water with you.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oops, time to say goodbye. Let's agree to get back together for more Front Porch Tales next Friday at noon. Thank you, Chip and Fox 910, and God bless you all.